Hello, everybody. And as you can see, I'm still working on this piece. Like I told you guys in numerous past videos, I'm only working on this video, or on this page, I should say, when I'm doing these videos. I have another piece I'm working on. But like I said, I think it's good that I have one piece to work on while I'm doing these videos. That way, you can see the progress from video to video. It's not like you I do the video and then I work on it, and then you see a lot of work done between videos. So I like that. And what I'm doing right now is I I don't like the way like this here like I don't like the way this is going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in really light fine dots, and the idea is to create a different create more depth between his sleeve and his outer sleeve. So just going in here, slowly putting it in. So this week is week 12 of Signed Comics for 2025. And we start off with Fantastic Five, issue number 2. Now, the reason they came up with this title, remember when they did the Spider Girl series? And they'd already said when they did the Spider Girl series that the continuation of the series depended on sales. If the sales weren't there, they would discontinue the series. Well, the sales were good, so they tried out other. They created. I guess you could say they created like 3 other titles as companion titles for the Spider Girl series or the Spider Girl universe. I would say, and that was Avengers Next or A Next. They had uh, uh, J2, which was the son of the Juggernaut, and they had this one, the Fantastic Five. And I liked this a lot because it was essentially a continuation of the Fantastic Four when Paul Ryan was doing that title. And this was, you had Lita, who was a shapeshifter, who was the former wife of Johnny Storm Franklin, and Ben Grimm, and then they had a robot character called the Brain, and had the brain of Reed Richards. Now, I like this series a lot. Primarily, the reason why I liked this series so much was because it was Paul Ryan's artwork. And it was, like I said, it was a continuation of that era when he was doing the Fantastic Four. And I liked it a lot. And so I had the opportunity for Mark Schultz to sign it. Mark Schultz did this cover. That's the reason why he signed it. And I was very fortunate to have him sign it. And I remember had him sign it when he was in Baltimore. And when you see Mark Schultz in Baltimore, he's always at the Flesk publication table. He has a very strong working relationship with Flesk. In fact, all of his books are published through Flesk Publications. So he is there at their table. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember this." And John Flesk, he was there and he was like, "Oh, what's that?" And he said, he goes, "Yeah, I did a title of," and he goes, "I thought it was the Fantastic Four. No, it was the Fantastic Five." And he was kind of disappointed that he didn't get to do like Sue and Reed, but he got to do the other characters. Now, I like this series. I will not lie. I prefer the Fantastic Four without Mr. Fantastic. And this was a really good because you had this robot who was had the brain of they said he had the brain of Mr. Fantastic. At the end of the series, they revealed that here Mr. Fantastic was still alive. He was alive in the negative zone, and he was there with his wife Sue. Sue was in a catatonic state, and she was using her shield powers to keep the negative zone contained from entering our world. And so she was in a catatonic state, and Reed was there with his wife to be with her and look after her. And he had lost his like his ability to maintain his form. So he had like a severe palsy in his face. His face was all droopy, and his one leg was all starting to lose the elasticity. So he had this like techno cane to help him walk around. So I really like this series. Um, I wish we'd gotten more of it. Sales weren't there, so they discontinued. And I respect it. I respect the fact, even though I wish they had been able to keep the series going. I respect the fact that back then Marvel's like, hey, if you don't keep the sales at a certain level, no more book. And you look at how there's so many books out. Like you think about how Ms. Marvel, they keep rebooting the Ms. Marvel series, and then it doesn't do well, and so now they're having her in the X-Men series to try. They're like, my apologies. They're kind of like saying hey, you don't have a choice. You have to like this character. And it's like, no, we don't. And so you got to get to a point where you go, well, this is not working. You need to shelve her and not utilize her because nobody cares about this character. But Marvel has too much invested in this character, and so they keep pushing her on us. So as a result, their sales keep going down. So, which is a shame because when we hear about the stories of Jim Shooter and how Jim Shooter was always like, when he was in charge of Marvel, if a title fell below uh, so many titles, like so many sales, it was automatically discontinued. And those books that he was discontinuing were really good books. And think about how their sales are so much superior to the stuff that they're to the books that they keep trying to push on us to buy, and those sales are so low. It's like, no, you got to just look. Nobody's buying it. You got it. It's not selling. It's people aren't wanting the book. You got to just cut your losses and move on to something else. But no, they don't. So I think so. Again, I look at it where I was like, hey, if you stuck to your guns and if it's not working, you get rid of it. Give the fans what they want. So, okay, just from the zigzag here of his, it shows this is a. So we've got, yeah, right here is where it is. So I'm gonna switch to to the fat nib for this one. So, but no, Fantastic Five. I like the series. I feel very fortunate that I was able to at least get one issue signed, even if it was just the cover artist Mark Schultz. And this is nothing against Mark. Like I said, he was like, oh wow, I get to do the Fantastic Five, but he still got to do Johnny. He still got to do Ben Grimm. So it worked out, and it was a good. I would feel very fortunate that I got the issue. So okay, so let's just go in slowly here. And then after that issue, we've got a series of Fantastic Fours that I had signed. And the first one was signed by Walt Simonson. It was issue 245. And why did I pick this one for Walt to sign? Because it's got dinosaurs in it. I mean, you got a dinosaur right on the cover. And this was a kind of cool, uh, this was a fun story. It wasn't like no big dramatic events and changing of the title forever. No, it was just, that's the way they always do it now, where it's like this was just, nope. They take a ride on a high-tech sled that Reed Richards builds, and they go on an adventure. And they end up on an island with dinosaurs, and they lose their powers. Their powers are negated. So uh, Sharon, who was Ms. Thing, she reverts to human. Uh, Ben Grimm was already in his human format, but he's got a armored thing outfit that he's able to wear. So he actually is like the only person on this dinosaur island with superpowers because of that. So it was just a fun story. It was like I think it was like a 3-issue series, a 3-issue story that Walt did. So I enjoyed it. And then after that, we go to Fantastic Four, uh, 372, signed by Sam Della Rosa. I had this signed by Sam last year, 2024. And I told him when I had him sign, I said, the reason why you're signing this is because of it is the era of Paul Ryan and how I like Paul Ryan so much. So even though all I did was inked him over the cover, I had to take the opportunity to have him sign it. And that's when he informed me that him and Paul Ryan got along, and Paul Ryan wanted him. He made arrangements, I guess, for him to sign to ink him on this cover, and then he let him keep the cover. So I thought that was great. And one thing also that's cool about this is that again, this is back during the '90s. You can tell from Johnny's costume that they're like imagizing, or I guess you could say imagizing their characters, or you could say it was Rogue. Rogue with her flight jacket became really popular. So all the other titles were like, how can we get our characters to get the Rogue factor? And so they were giving the characters in the Fantastic Four these like semi high tech utility vests that they could wear on their adventures. And so Johnny had this vest or jacket that he wore that wouldn't burn up when he turned into uh, when he flamed orange. Now again, this was the Paul Ryan era. The reason why I really liked this era was um, remember with Secret Wars how Ben Grimm stayed on the planet and how Johnny Storm returned to Earth and fell in love with Alicia Masters. Well, earlier in the series when Paul Ryan was doing it, here they reveal that Alicia Masters was a Skrull, and here she had replaced Alicia before Secret Wars, and then when Ben did not come back from Secret Wars, her mission was to infiltrate the Fantastic Four. She just used she just changed direction. You're like, well, I gotta stay in close connection to the Fantastic Four. I'll fall in love with Johnny, and that's why they had that. So they travel into space. They rescue Alicia, and she's like, "Oh, Ben, my love," and here, so Ben gets his girlfriend back, and Johnny Storm's left with no one. Lita returns to them on Earth, and she still has feelings for Johnny, but Johnny has resentment for her because she lied to him, she tricked him. But she was a recurring character throughout this time, and they get to the point where Johnny's kind of like forgiven her, and he's no longer has like severe animosity to Lita for what she did. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And then that leads us into the other thing also that was cool about this issue was during this time they were like creating new IPs like crazy, and they came up with the idea of like a human SWAT team, if you will, or a rapid response team that was designed to. There were cops, but they're especially trained, and they had like high tech high tech gadgets and high tech weapons, and they were designed to handle superhuman threats in Manhattan, and they're called Code Blue. So, which also made this this era kind of cool because you had this like, oh wow, you have those basically a superhero SWAT team, if you will, or a human SWAT team to deal with villains and heroes. in Manhattan. So they're in this issue, so which made it fun. And so they never really took traction, but it was one of those where it's like you don't know if it's going to be cool and whether it's going to catch on with the fans until you try it. I mean, here it is. Nobody probably really knows about Team Code Blue, but you don't know if it's going to be a cool title and people are going to stick until you create it. If it doesn't, you shelve it. Oh, gee, maybe they should try that with Ms. Marvel. But no, they're not going to do that. I mean, like I said, I mean they need to just shelve Ms. Marvel and bring her in sporadically until maybe she'll have some interest. So, I mean, you think about it, they did the same thing for the longest time with us. Squirrel Girl. She interfered. I think was introduced in an issue or an annual of Iron Man, and they never used her. And then later on, they did start to use her. First in the Great Lake Avengers, and then I think later on they used her. I know for a while they had her as the nanny to Jessica Drew, Power Man's girlfriend. So, but I mean, I kind of looked at her, and one of those where it's like, it was a nice comic relief character. I mean, making a series based off of her, that was stupid. So, but but no, I liked the idea that they came up with the concept of having uh, a rapid response team of cops that were trained just to deal with superheroes and supervillains in Manhattan. So, and then of course this leads us to next issue signed, which was issue 387, signed by Dave Sharp. Dave Sharp was the letterer, and again, it's the Paul Ryan era. I have whenever I have the ability to get someone to sign a issue done during the Paul Ryan era, I'll take it. I know he's done like I think Dave Sharp he lettered like two to four issues during this time. So over time, I'm going to get him to sign the other issues, just because, like I said, it's the Paul Ryan era. Now that's nothing against. I was like, oh, I'm just having it signed because of Paul Ryan. No, it's like letters have a very letters. If you ever go into Mike's Amazing Comics, and whether it be John Workman or Dave Sharp or Todd Klein, you will see it, their resume is endless because they did so much stuff. So how do you pick? So first I go by, okay, the Paul Ryan era. Look at it, and then I look at those issues that he lettered and go, okay, where did he really sing as a letterer? Where was he really able to flex? And from there, I then get them. I then decide which ones to get for the letter to sign. So, and then there's also like, for instance, yes, he did the lettering for a backup story in issue 375 of Amazing Spider-Man. I did that earlier this year, because I'd had so many different creators sign that issue. I just had to take the opportunity to have Dave uh, Dave Sharp join the team, join the team of signed creators on the book. So, in fact, that's one of the books that Mark Bagley he is going to be doing the here Garden State Comic Fest. So, I'm definitely going to. That's one of the issues I'm definitely going to have Mark Bagley sign because there's so many signatures on it. You get to the point when you have so many signatures on a book, it's one of those where it's like you'd be stupid if you have all the other signatures. Why not add that creator's signature to it? So, but again, I liked it, and he really got to sing with doing this issue of the Fantastic Four. And again, I like this era that Paul Ryan was doing. Primarily, the reason why I really like this era when Paul Ryan was doing it because again, I'm not a huge fan of Reed Richards. And this was during the time when the story arc was that Reed Richards was thought to be dead and he was no longer part of the team, it wouldn't be. And I think they went like 2 years without Reed in the book. And Sue Storm has taken up the mantle of being the team leader. And I liked it up to a point. Um, First of all, I mean, it's Reed's wife. So Johnny and the Thing, they're going to stand behind her choices no matter what. Never once did the Thing or Johnny Storm question her decision making uh, as the team leader. Now, they could have done more with like Namor and Ant Man and Christoph Doom uh, challenging her leadership, but they really never did. That was the other thing I liked about this era was the Doom character, the version of Doctor Doom that they were using was Christoph. Christoph was a child who was implanted with the memories of Doctor Doom. He was one of his Doctor Doom's fail-safes. If anything happened to him, this child was to take up the mantle of Doom for him till he returned. And so Christoph Doom was that version of Doctor Doom. But at this point, he knew that he was not the original Doctor Doom, that he was just had the memory implants. And what kind of made it cool also was Scott Lang, the Ant-Man, he was on the team. Well, as a result, here, Scott Lang, he shares custody with his daughter, Cassie. And Kristoff is walking around Four Freedoms Plaza as just without the armor on, so he's just a little boy. And he develops a friendship with Cassie, where he's kind of like he likes her, but at the same time also he's Doctor Doom, and he's got the intellect of Doctor Doom, but there's that part of him that is still got the sensibilities of a child. And Cassie doesn't know that Kristoff is Kristoff Doom. So Cassie's like is just looking at him like, "Oh, you're a little boy running around for Four Freedoms Plaza. Let's be friends, and let's do it. Let's do things together." And she's like, a friend to play with. And he just and he kind of like it was neat the way they did it because he was kind of like perplexed. He was kind of perplexed, but but you're just a child. But he did develop some, as even though it was Doctor Doom, there was part of Kristoff still in there that developed. Uh, Maybe not. I would say maybe like an emotional attachment at an adolescent level, which was again neat. You don't really. It was different. So, and of course, they never got a chance to really push that to a resolution with that dynamic between the two of them, but it's still fun. So and that's the one thing that's kind of neat about comics is we saw it numerous times back in the 80s and 90s where uh, a creator was on this title and they would leave the book and then later on they'd come back and they want to revisit a story, a theme or a story that they were doing. Think about how the very first thing that John Byrne did had when he joined the West Coast Avengers. The first thing he wanted to do was he wanted to address that issue where uh, the Vision tried to take over NORAD for United States safety, and how we got a completely different Vision that was emotional, had no emotions at the end of the story. That was neat, and it's like he said, he felt that uh, they never gave resolution to that story, so he used that angle to tell his Vision story of how he wanted to address it, which I thought it was really neat. and they actually did somewhat use that when they did that Vision and Wanda, did the was it called WandaVision uh, series, or in Disney Plus. So, and I liked how they kind of took aspects of that when they did when they did it, and how the vision that she saw was the vision because of her powers, which they'd established with in the comic where her children weren't really alive, and that they were the children were uh, aspects of her imagination and came to existence from her powers. So, and then we move out of the Marvel and we go into day 79, Fearless Dawn, the swimsuit edition. I had this one done because I'd had. Okay, so best back up. I was in Jersey and I was working for Steve Mannion's father. And I was talking to him, and he was saying how like his son has to do this Captain America story, and the writer keeps referencing the X-Files movie, and he goes he doesn't know what that is. And I said I have that movie. Do you want to borrow? And he's like sure. So I brought the movie in, gave it to his dad, and then he gave it to Steve. Well, then in the meantime, while he's borrowing it, I have to go back home. I have to leave North Jersey and return back to Pennsylvania. I didn't think anything of it. And then the one day I come home from work and there's this package sitting at my doorstep from Steve. And here he'd returned the movie to me along with the copy of the Captain America that he did, along with uh, his own independent book that he'd done with, I think there was like 2 issues in there. And then on top of that, here he'd sent me photocopies of some of the pages he did for the one book. So that was really cool. And so when he, this last year or 2 years ago, started the Fearless Dawn series, I found out about it, probably through Facebook. Got my local store to get the book. I gotta clean off this nib. And so I had him sign a bunch of the Fearless Dawn books when I saw him last June at Heroes Con. And this swimsuit edition, basically the way the Fearless Dawn is basically it's like a uh, biker bitches with like Nazi hats, if you will, and he just a bunch of pinups he did over the time, and so I wanted, and he basically a bunch of pinups, and then you can see how he's using like watercolor and Doc Martin dyes to create the image. And with the printing process now, it really stands out. You can really see the brushwork and everything. So instead of a specific issue from Fearless Dawn, I went with the swimsuit edition to show you guys. So yeah, he was one of those creators at HeroesCon that I went on a mission to have him sign because every single time I'd walk by his table, he wasn't there. And then just before the day was over, I'm like, okay, we're going to walk by one final time, and hopefully he's there. And we walked by, and he was there. And I got him to sign it. I was like, mission accomplished. I got him to sign that book. Great, great, great. I was so happy. So, and then after that was Joss Whedon's Fray. Um, I I remember when this came out in conjunction with I think it was season 7 of Buffy. And I remember talking to Carl Malone, who signed it, and he was saying how it's like, yeah, how Joss really wasn't sure what he was doing. He kind of painted himself in the corner when he uh, when he had to use the magic spell to release the potential of being a Slayer and all the other girls. And how I was like, yeah, I said I like that. And I said that's like I looked at it as how every single uh, Slayer potential was exhausted. So by the time Frey came along, there was no one knew what a Slayer was because like the magical feat had been exhausted by that point, and that's the reason why it was renewed again. It was outside of the spell that was cast. And he looked at me and he goes, "That's really good." And I said, "Well, I passed it around the Jots if you see him." So now I think Carl sadly has passed away. I think he did this last year, but no. So that's again, at least I got a issue signed by him. And that's the thing is like with as creators pass, you hope to at least have one book from them signed, as my own way of saying like, hey, I thank you very much for the entertainment you provided me. So that's the reason why I always try to have at least one book, if I'm meeting a creator for the first time, is get them to sign at least one book, unless their signature charge is outrageous. That's the reason why you're never going to see a Frank Miller or a Jim Lee signed book in my collection because I'm not going to spend that much money to get just one signature. So that's my loss. So, and then lastly, the last day, which is today, uh, issue 1 of Green Arrow, signed by Mike Grell and by Mike Gold. So, and I included 2 images of it, so because they both signed in silver, and unless you zoom in, take that second photograph, you can't see, you really can't see where the signature is on the page because they both use the silver metallic pens. So, and I got that book signed, I want to say it was like 92. It was, I got that sign in the springtime, and in the fall was when I started my first year at the Kubert School. So, but so that's the books that I had signed for 2025 for week uh, for week 12. So I hope you like the selection. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, where we will talk about other stuff. So till then, remember, life is stressful. Just take it all one dot at a time.